Welcome, Daniel. This is the Quality Values podcast. So, I've been following you for a while. I love your systems. You've got the best grip strength system that I found, and I think grip strength is probably the most underrated and definitely one of the most important aspects of functional strength, functional abilities. Um, I do jiu-jitsu. I'm a functional ability focused trainer, and so grip strength is something that I focus on a lot. So yeah, I've stolen a lot of your ideas with my clients over the years and for myself, so I appreciate that.
No, it's my pleasure to be here. Yeah, and absolutely, I agree. Obviously, I think well, first, it's not stealing. I give it away for free, a lot of it, so you're more than more than welcome to use it. But yeah, grip strength is it's how we communicate with the world. Really, the world is built around our hands, and if the hands are strong, your ability to communicate with the world physically is much better.
Yeah, I've heard that grip strength is, of all the strength measures, it's the number one correlate with longevity. I'm sure you've come across similar things in your journey, and
Yeah,
that
and yeah, deep ties to like the nervous system as well. So you can use a grip strength dynamometer test to measure your central nervous system fatigue, for example.
interesting. I didn't even know that.
Yeah, so in the same way that nowadays we might use a Whoop or a Aura ring or something, another way of doing it would have been to test your waking heart rate, and another way that some people don't, or some teams, um, some high performers test their readiness for the day is that they have a baseline. They take their grip, they do a grip strength test every morning, and they have a baseline. And if you see a drop, then take it easy. And if it's extra high, then go have a good day.
Interesting. I actually just started another podcast called the Nervous System Training Podcast
Mm.
with I don't know if you're familiar with nervous system training, but um, it's kind of the Marinovich brothers.
Yes.
Yeah, it's kind of a system based on their methods. The problem is that they kept their methods under wraps. They
Yeah.
they didn't publish it. It was before social media, before you could get rich just by putting it out for free.
Mm.
So
Mm.
they kept it secret. So there's some footage, and there's and it dates back to the Soviets, the Russians,
Mm.
in the Cold War. The Marinovich took a lot of their ideas. But yeah, it's the nervous system is, I think, I think that's kind of a growing area of interest in the fitness world. So
Absolutely. Yeah.
yeah,
Rightfully so.
um, super cool. So you're Raspberry Ape. That's your Instagram. That's your moniker. You've got the jiu-jitsu rash guard. It says it. I
That's
like to
right.
ask the origin story.
No, I don't do that anymore.
No.
Nope. 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 Next. I should have, in the same way, whenever I do a podcast, every single podcast I've ever done, they've asked me that question. I just, nowadays I don't answer it.
All right.
Um,
So for
and
context, go look at Daniel's podcast. Go look at his other interviews. Go
I
find it
prefer,
elsewhere.
I prefer
It's
actually to just keep an air of mystery about it.
yeah.
But yeah, in the same way that you give like a preamble before you start, I should start giving a preamble before I record a podcast that
Yeah.
there's only one question not to ask.
All right. Well, let me get to something random then. What about the white patches on your
Oh, that's
mustache?
the other question not to ask. No, I'm kidding. The white patches are. So I've made up a lot of fake stories about the origin of the nickname. So if you go out there and you research it, you'll find about 5 or 6 different ones. So nobody, I'm still maintaining an air of mystery about it. And I've made up a few stories about the white moustache as well. But I'll tell you the truth about that one, and that is that it's a autoimmune condition called vitiligo, and it affects the skin's ability to produce melanin. So my skin underneath the hair is white as well. So you've probably seen it on some people. I mean, I'm relatively fortunate. It's not on a huge amount of my face or body, and everywhere that it is covered in hair. So it just looks like I have white hair. Or if you're Instagram, I've been doing too much pre-workout.
Love it. I love
A
the
special
mystery makes it more
pre-workout.
fun. Yeah. All right, and so I did some research before this. I found one clip that I thought was interesting. You were talking about your size over time. I don't know your weight, and you're in kilos. I'm in the U.S., so I'm in pounds. But I looked
I'm
up the
about 200
conversion.
pounds.
200 pounds.
Yeah.
You said that at one point you were 70 kilos when you were doing jiu-jitsu. Is
Oh,
that
I
right?
started jiu-jitsu. I was 50 kilos. So I was 110 pounds when I started.
Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
um, I'm a skinnier guy. I like to think I'm strong for my weight, but the truth is that when I'm rolling with bigger guys, I just get smashed sometimes. That's the main body type I can't keep up with. So I'm
There's
curious
no
when.
weight classes in the jungle, eh?
Yeah, exactly. And it's ultimately it'd be awesome to just be able to go with anyone.
Yeah.
The weight classes are cool, and I like being strong for my weight, but that doesn't matter. So I'm curious when it comes to gaining mass, and specifically gaining mass without getting injured. Whenever I start to gain size, I feel like my muscles get strong relative to my tendons, and I always end up tweaking something. I don't know if it's my force production can't keep up with my joints or whatever, but I'm curious as you gained weight, and in a powerful way, the strength to go along with it. Did you have
Mm.
issues with injuries, or if not, um, how did you go about it to not get injuries?
Yeah. Uh, Basically, I did not do it a clever way. I tried to put on as much weight as possible really quickly, and I did get injured in various different ways, and I did get fat, and it just wasn't healthy. But so the answer is anyone can put on size, but just have a really long term approach. It's sort of easy come, easy go, which is if you can put on 10 pounds in 10 weeks, then which is doable. You had to eat a lot of food, but it's doable. If you put on 10 pounds in 10 weeks, you'll lose it just as fast. If you put on 10 pounds in 10 months, you got a much better shot. Because I think like they say what you can actually put on is like a pound or half a pound a week, which is way too much to put on consistently. So I would say like a pound a month, and just small calorie surplus, strength training, high protein, good rest, and just have a really long term approach. Because I guess, how old are you, if you don't mind me asking?
28.
So you're 28. So you're like, okay, you want to be, and you weigh what, 175 pounds, 100, something like that.
Yeah, I'm 185,
Yeah,
but
185. So
I would
so
like to
let's
get to
say,
215.
okay, well that's a lot.
Yeah, 30 pounds.
That's a
But
lot.
I'm in no rush. Like
Well, that's
by
the
the
thing.
time I'm
So,
35, like that's
exactly, and
yeah,
that should be it. Like I would say, you want to put on 30 pounds, then take 3 years to do it, and just creep up there slowly and really packing on the size and the mass, um, in a way where it's going to be able to maintain. Yeah, just it's no rush. It's a marathon, not sprint.
yeah, love it. And then how do you keep it on? That's I will gain weight, and then it just I don't know if I'm not eating enough or if I just too high energy, but I tend to lose it after I gain anything substantial.
Yeah, well, ultimately, I mean that's part of putting it on too quickly. Is that you put it on too quickly, and by the time you get up there, you're actually sick of eating, so you stop eating. Then once you hit your goal, let's say you're having 5,000 calories a day, and you're borderline ill every day for 3 months, and then you finally get to the weight that you want, and you've crossed the quote unquote finish line, so you stop eating, and then you're just going to lose it very quickly. So again, it just goes back. If you spend 3 years putting the weight on, you're never going to be sick of the process, really, and you have a much better chance of keeping it. But ultimately, it will all come down to how much you're eating. Like the actual exercise does not have anywhere near the factor on weight loss or weight gain as people think. It's almost entirely food.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
All right, I wanted to shift it to your training a little bit.
Yeah.
What's your routine like? I mean, you've got I love your creativity. You've got the wildest exercises, and if you look at your page, they're unique. Everything is interesting. And it almost seems like you've got a different piece of equipment for every single post. You're posting all the time, and I like that too. That's definitely my style. I'm kind of free flowing with it.
Yeah.
The downside of that is that it's hard to like get that progressive overload in because every day it's a different workout. And so I'm curious, in your experience, uh, do you worry too much about the structure of your workouts? Do you track the time? Do you track the exercises, or are you just committed to putting the work in, and over time you get where you want to go?
Nope. I follow a structure. I keep track of all of the exercises that I'm doing, and I follow the principle of progressive overload. Um, because it's hard. I mean, I've gone through periods where I haven't done that, but it's harder, and you're not going to be getting the best bang for buck. And a lot of the crazy stuff that I do is just accessory work. So you can basically, if you watch my videos, you'll basically be able to tell what is one of my core exercises and what is an accessory work. And the way that you could be able to tell is like, is this overloadable? Is this like a basic movement pattern that can be overloaded? So if you see me doing a squat with a sandbag, that's a core exercise, or a sandbag pickup, or a Zercher squat, or something like that. And if you see me doing some crazy thing, then it's probably just a bit of accessory. And that's what I like to do. I I train full body. So my training, I train three times a week, really. Maybe if my body feels good and I've got time, I'll chuck in a fourth one. Sometimes if my body's not feeling so great, I only train twice a week, lifting, and then I roll. And yeah, I do like 4 or 5 exercises that are consistent over, 2 or 3 months. And I'm making note of everything that I'm doing. I'm trying to increase it every single time. And then afterwards I will play around with some fun stuff, and I'll, have some fun, basically, because I think it's important. And even if there'll be plenty of people out there like, well, you're wasting time with this other stuff. I'm like, I'm having fun. That's not a waste of time.
Yeah, it's
simple as that.
I mean, it might be replacing Netflix, so I don't know what's the waste of time then. And then when you're rolling with people, do you ever find anyone that you feel intimidated by their strength, or that can keep up with your grip, with the rest of your power?
Look, there are a lot. I'm not the strongest grappler out there by a long way. There are a lot of people who are a lot heavier than me, and there are a lot of people who are a lot naturally stronger than me. I'm not like physically gifted. I'm not naturally strong. The strength that I have, I've built over many years. And there's a lot of people who are on steroids, who are stronger with, and that's the frustrating part is when you see some of these people, you see they work out and they don't work out that hard and they don't work out that smart, but because they have that assistance there, they're just going to be way stronger with none of the work. But that's life, baby. That's how it works. So there's nothing you can do about that. And so yeah, there's people who are stronger than me, they're bigger than me, but that's okay. That's all right. A lot of the people, if I do roll with someone who's super strong, usually the technique and the pacing and the management of output, which is a really important concept, can usually wither away the power. It is what do they say? It is the river's persistence, not its strength, that cuts through the mountain.
I like that. That's a good one.
Mm-hmm.
And then reading between the lines there, is it safe to say you're a natty athlete?
I am. If I wasn't, I want my money back. And that's not to say that I've thought about it in terms of, when you get a little bit older, I'm 34 now. When I was 24, I was like, oh yeah, by the time I'm 34, you'd be on that TRT. But I don't feel the need to right now. And actually, to be honest with you, I actually feel like I can't. And mainly, longevity is something that's important to me. That's not to say that I don't think that the use of various hormones can't be done safely, and in some cases can be done for the cause of longevity. But actually, I think that there aren't a lot of people out there in the fitness space who aren't on gear, and a lot of them lying about it. And I actually feel like it would be disingenuous of me. I actually feel like I can't do it for the fact that I don't think it would be right to the people who look up to me or follow me, or I feel like I need to do it natty, basically. Yeah. Even if it was in a few years' time. And I'll be honest, if that does happen, I can't imagine that I'll get to like 60 without using something, because I do think that there is a time where the negatives of taking testosterone are going to be lower than the negatives of having low testosterone from a purely health and longevity perspective. of course, what most people are doing is, one, they're taking more than testosterone, and they're taking it at a time where the benefit does, where the negatives are not lower than the benefit, the other side. So I'm sure there'll be some point where I do that, but I hope it's really not for a while, for a really long time, because I'd love to continue to be an example of what just consistent hard work and good training can do.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, a lot of guys in my gym are on something, and it's definitely tempting. But yeah, from a longevity perspective, it's never made sense to me. And I also, it doesn't really matter. Like, if I was on something, I would beat up people in my local gym here in Nashville. But I know you've gone through ADCC, where there's real incentive to do well.
Yeah.
It could up your career. So I've always wondered if I got to that point.
Yeah, if I qualified for ADCC again, fuck it, give me the tram. Yeah. But I like to think I tell people, I'd be like, look, guys, I qualify for ADCC, and I'm going to do it properly.
Yeah. Is that a goal for you? Are you
not at the moment? Not
at the moment.
No. I'm focusing on other things now. I haven't competed in 2 years now. I think maybe even longer than that. So it's been a while since I competed. I'm just focusing on other things. It's not to say that my competition days are behind me, but perhaps ADCC days are behind me. I'd say Wagner Hoscher is a good example that you can continue to be a beast into your 40s, but that guy has a little bit of blood in his steroids.
It's a funny way to put it.
I love Wagner. He's awesome, but that guy's juicy as hell.
Yeah. Is when you're rolling with someone who's on it, can you feel it immediately, like as soon as they grab?
Oh, I don't train with that many people who are on gear.
Okay, interesting.
But yeah, I mean, there's yeah, you can. I have rode in the past.
Cool. I'm curious about your journey in business. That's I consider myself an entrepreneur. That's kind of why I started this whole podcast. And your models, I mean, it's obviously working. I'm curious, when you set out, when you started posting on social media, what was your goal? Like, did you see yourself kind of going down the path that you've gone down, or does it all just kind of come about naturally and spontaneously?
Yeah. I mean, it's great to hear that you think that I sort of have my shit together in terms of the business stuff, which I'm glad it looks that way from the outside. No, most of the stuff that I try to, when I see opportunity, I try to take it. But no, I never started an Instagram for the intention of doing anything, quote unquote, special with it, whatever that means to anyone. I had Instagram for the same reason everyone else had Instagram 10 years ago, which is what, take pictures of my dinner and post a few. There weren't even videos on Instagram when I started posting on there. And then I started posting workout videos just because that's what I was doing. I was working out and there was interest in that. And then, over the last 3 years, really, it really took off a lot more. But yeah, it's all, I've never tried to trick or manipulate the system. I just do my thing. And that's true of everything I've ever done. And that's not because I'm special or different or non-conformist or anything. That's just me. I don't watch videos on how to make the best visual hooks or, how to trick the algorithm into promoting my stuff. I'm just like, as soon as I do that, it's the wrong intention of what I'm doing. I'm just trying to put out content that helps people and that people find value in. And it's nice that I've seen some success just by doing that, And I think it goes to show you don't have to follow a formula. Because also everyone follows the same formula. You just end up just one out of a million identical accounts. The number one thing is try to provide value. That's it. Try to provide value. And I've got lucky because, I mean, we kind of, I guess some people don't like the word luck. I'm grateful for how it's happened. And I guess it's consistency is the only thing I can really take much credit for, and whatever else people seem to like in my content. But stay consistent, and try to give people value, and you might get lucky as well.
Yeah, it's one of those counterintuitive things. It sounds like you're by not trying to stand out, you end up standing out.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah,
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 call it authenticity.
yeah,
Um,
exactly. I try. Yeah.
Super cool. And then, um, is I know you've got courses online. It's the Ape Academy.
Mm-hmm.
You've got the wrist course out. Are you an online coach at this point, or call it coach, call it influencer? Is that full time? Is that what you do?
I have no idea what I am, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
You know, I was I've taught jiu-jitsu for the last 18 years. At times full time. Since 2019, I've not taught full time anywhere. So I teach seminars, and I do commentary. I'm pretty busy with commentary these days. And then trying to move more into the online space. So yeah, I've got courses out and I've got programs out like that, and I'm actually launching uh, I'm launching a online community end of next month, which is like the next project that I'm working on, which is I'm quite excited to do, to try and like just be able to help people more than I can through Instagram. It's not the perfect it's a good platform for getting eyes on you, but it's not a great platform for actually helping people. There's only so many questions that I can answer on a post every day. So that's what I'm working on next. I've never coached anyone online at all, and I'm not sure if that's something that I'll ever do. So yeah, handful of different things.
What's your driver in all this? This kind of getting into the theme of this podcast, quality values. Like what are your underlying values that have kind of driven your path? Is it the freedom? Is it the passion for the jujitsu and the
Mm.
strength training? Um, what's kind of the underlying mechanism that's propelled you along? I'm sure there's been times where it didn't seem like much was coming of it.
Yeah, yeah. I think it's changed over time. I'd say right now, um, I really like to help people, and I think that the two ways that I do that is through the jujitsu stuff and the strength of fitness of whatever that stuff is. It's funny because I'm not a personal trainer. I never took a personal training course or studied any form of strength training or anything like that. Um, just me fucking around in my garage, right? That's all it was, and it's funny that it's now like I'm seen somewhat as a as an authority in the strength training space. But it just goes to show, like, practical is the best way to learn something. Um, I've worked with some great people, and I've learned from many different people. But yeah, I found myself almost being sought more for the strength stuff than the grappling stuff, which I am trained and quote unquote qualified in as a black belt. Um, but yeah, my drive, I guess, is to share my passions and to help people. Yeah, and I think that grappling and getting stronger. I mean, the grappling thing is great, but it's not for everyone. The strength thing should be. That's important. There's so many benefits to that. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that gets back into kind of the longevity focus you brought up earlier. And I'm curious more into that longevity stuff.
Mm.
Um, your strength programs, do you see yourself kind of following a similar pattern of training into your 50s, 60s? Do you, if you work with older people, do you suggest different things than you do? Obviously, maybe your actual strength would go down. You'd use lighter weights, but just the style, the approach, do you anticipate that changing, or do you suggest different things for older folks?
Everyone's different. There's 50-year-olds out there who can train harder than some 20-year-olds out there. They've just trained all their life, and they're an ex-pro athlete or something, and they're just built different. So everyone's different. But yeah, generally um, as you get older, the training's going to adapt, the intensity is going to change. But the most important thing is 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 strength training, is maintaining muscle and staying strong. It's funny because you think of that as a young man's game, but it's actually more important. If you are going, let's say that you're going to spend 10 years doing strength training in your life, most people will say do it from 20 to 30. I'd say do it from 50 to 60. Do it from 60 to 70, because that's actually where it makes a difference. That's actually where it is going to help you live longer, and it's going to help you live better. Because when you're 20 to 30, your body can be just trash and you'll be fine. You'll recover fine and you'll be able to do things and you won't hurt yourself too badly. Once you get into your late 30s, 40s, 50s, that starts to go away a little bit. But once you get into your late 50s, your 60s, your 70s, that's when you lose the ability to function like you used to. And the single best thing, and that's not just me saying that. That's a scientific fact. The most important things are the muscle mass that you can maintain as you age, as you start to lose it, and also physical strength, making sure that if you fall, you can get up. If you can hold on to something if you need to, you can push yourself off of something if you need to. These are very important things as you get older. So that's why. I mean, that's not my audience, but that's definitely something that I find is probably where the biggest value in all of this stuff actually comes.
Yeah, I love it. When it comes to, you mentioned a little bit earlier, nutrition. How stringent are you on the quality of the ingredients? Are you more just focused on the macros, getting enough protein, getting your carbs, fats, or do you pay attention to, like, is the meat grass fed, is the fruits organic? Yeah, what do you think about that?
Yeah, I don't get crazy on that stuff. My simple philosophy on the food thing is just try and make it all myself, simply. I watched a TED talk from Michael Pollan, and I think it's called How Cooking Can Change the World, or How Cooking Can Save the World or Your Life, or something like that. And one of the most impactful 15-minute talks I've ever witnessed. And then I went on to read a lot of his books, and starting with Cooked, which is his book about food. And prior to that, I used to eat out a lot. I was always out. I was at the gym, and I just love eating. I'd love eating out. And after that, everything changed. I don't want to. For me, a takeaway or a takeout, as I think you guys call it, that's not a treat. I don't want it. I'm not interested. For the last 2 years, I've been meal prepping basically all of my meals. That I don't know how I lasted 30 something years not doing that. It was kind of insane to me. Like, what would I just do? Every meal that I wanted to eat, I would cook it there and then. How was that? How did I do that? I don't even understand. So that's a massive difference. But yeah, it sounds really boring. It is really boring. It's really boring. But and don't get me wrong, I'll go out and I'll go to eat with my friends, and I'll get takeout on a rare occasion. But generally as a rule, as long as you're making the food, that's the biggest factor in health. And that's what Michael Pollan says in the talk, is actually one of the biggest factors in how healthy someone is not all of the factors that we would assume, their socioeconomic class or this or that. It's actually how many meals they cook versus how many meals are either sort of microwave meals or they're going out to eat in restaurants.
I'm not quite sure. Is Michael Pollan the guy who wrote How to Change Your Mind?
Yes, he is. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yes.
Have you read that one too?
I have. Yes. Yeah.
Are you into those subjects?
Yeah. Definitely. It's a fascinating topic for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that stuff. I
can see the calculations in your head and how many
questions
you want to ask me.
I know. I don't want to come off rude. I know you've got. I'm sure some of your audience is buttoned up, but I'm not too buttoned up. So
sure.
Yeah, and I'll just say it, mushrooms. He talks about mushrooms. The whole How to Change Your Mind. It's how to use psychedelics to kind of change your base. And I don't know. When I was younger, in my 20s, I was pretty unhealthy. I was a bit of a wild man, and at some point, I tried mushrooms, and despite kind of seeming like a wild thing, it kind of tempered me down. Is that something you've experimented with?
So, the classical psychedelics, but especially mushrooms, is something many people um, feel more of a pull towards the natural, the chthonic mushroom opposed to sort of the laboratory made LSD. Uh, but there's certainly power, and I think we're in a psychedelic renaissance, aren't we?
Yeah.
These things are starting to be legalized, they're starting to be studied, they're starting to be accepted, and not demonized as they are. And we have to be very careful about demonizing anything, um, and especially something that seems to have a great potential for helping people, really helping people. So yeah, I mean, there's still a lot for us to learn about how these compounds affect the brain and behavior, but it's very promising. I think no one should be closed-minded about anything, least of all something like that. Yeah, there's definitely there's something in there.
You're very delicate on that line there. I
Very
like it.
political. Yeah, no,
Smart guy.
the one of my favorite analogies for the effects, the power of the classical psychedelics is essentially, if you imagine a ski slope, and someone has been going down the same path over and over again, and the tracks become deeper and deeper. And when your tracks are very, very deep, you get on the ski slope and you lock into those tracks and you can't get off. And what a trip can do sometimes is it can give you a fresh coat of snow and allow you to rewrite those tracks a little bit. So a lot of people are in habits or in patterns that they struggle to get out of, and sometimes they just need to get a good dump of snow and they can rewrite those tracks.
I like that. Yeah, when I've described it to some skeptics, like my parents, for example, I, the way I say it's almost like you get a fresh perspective, but the same memories. So you still have the same experiences to pull from, but it either no ego or a different ego. I don't know how to describe the ego component of it, but something to do with the ego kind of gives you a different way to analyze and understand those experiences that have always been there with you.
Yeah, and you know what? There's a lot of all of this stuff is within sort of the realms of altered states of consciousness and introspection and stuff like that. And there's ways to do it that are not through the use of psychedelics or entheogenics, such as breath work or meditation, or I mean, there's a lot of indigenous tribes would have done through like fasting or long dancing ceremonies. There are lots of ways to get into, and basically, like psychedelics, they're the easy way to do it.
Yeah, and
They're the easy
honestly,
way.
that's as I've gotten older, I've gotten less interested in the actual chemicals, and I've tried to achieve some of the same effects. I'm curious, do you use those types of methods? Do you use breath work?
Not as
These types
much as
of
I'd
things in
like
your
to.
routine?
Not as
No,
much as I'd like to. No.
interesting. Um, do you have patterns in your routine to say come back to center to recenter yourself?
Uh, Very few things beat a good walk. No phone, no music, no podcast. Just going out. You know, um, underrated. A good walk outside in nature. I like going into nature. I like sitting in the woods and what they call like a tree bath. Um, that's probably would be the go-to one for me. I try and meditate a little bit, but again, still something that I'm working on.
Yeah, yeah, I love that too. I've got two dogs, and
Yeah,
it's I think just my base level with my dogs is just I have to take them out. It's
yeah.
I signed up for that when I got them. So and they're off leash dogs, so there's a little woods patch out that window back up. But yeah, just that works for me. Um, yeah, it's good. Is there
100%.
good nature in the UK where you are?
There's a little bit. Depends how nice the day is. If it's grey out, which it is a lot of the time in the UK, then everywhere looks a little bit crummy. But if the sun's out, it's pretty good. I can't complain. There's some fantastic places in the UK though, but yeah, a few nearby. A few nearby.
Love it.
Yeah.
Um, all right. I saw your wrist program. I haven't got it, but I'm curious. What's the general structure of it? It seems like
Sure.
the new one. Yeah, I've seen a couple other people that I think you're friends with have posted with it as well.
Yeah. So yeah, the iron wrist. So basically, the question of programs has always been something that was a bit of a contentious topic for me. Um, there was a demand for me to give people structure of how they could train. For me, it was always I wanted to give people the ability to do that for themselves. I didn't want to write cookie cutter programs and you know stuff like that. It just didn't feel super authentic, I guess. Um, so instead, I put out lots of content on different ways that you can train and understanding how the program and stuff like that. I wrote a book on grip training, and yet people still wanted more. And what they wanted by more was actually that they wanted less. I started to come to the conclusion that most people are not. I personally, and this is the mistake that I made, and this is an important lesson for a lot of people, which is not everyone wants what you want, especially if you're if you're really, really into a topic. Like, let's say I'm really into grip training. I want to know everything I can about it. So when I wrote my book, I wrote what I would have wanted. And there's lots of people like me out there who want to learn about it as well. But there's even more people out there who are not like me. They don't want to learn anything. They don't want to read a book. Just tell me what to do. So after much of that, I decided, okay, I can tell you what to do. So what I figured out was I could create grip training programs that were not full body programs, which is sort of a lot more complex, but simple stuff that you could just add on to a standard program to get some direct grip training, which is going to have a massive effect whether you're a grappler or whether you're not, you know. So the first one that I launched was the Popeye Project, which was about getting bigger forearms, as the name might suggest. And that was a funny one because that that was the first program I ever put out. And like I said, I was never planning to put out a program. And a friend of mine asked me, he came to me and he said, I want to get bigger forearms. I don't care about anything else. I just want bigger forearms. He's a doctor. He wears short sleeve scrubs. And all he wanted to see was like bigger forearms sticking out of those scrubs. So on a plane ride from Dublin to London, about an hour plane ride, no signal on my phone. I just sat down and I wrote out this program. And I got back and I gave it to him. And he said, thanks. And he never did it. And I was, a couple of months later, I was just thinking, this is really good. And it's completely wasted on him. Do you know what? I'm just going to release it. So I made it look pretty and I put it out and people really liked it. And that led me to essentially creating a follow-up or something that I thought was, you know, grip training, as you said right at the beginning of the podcast, is something that's sort of underutilized. And the wrist is sort of the underutilized part of the underutilized thing. You know, it's the niche within the niche, maybe within the niche. And so I wrote the Iron Wrist program, which is a program designed to build stronger wrists. Now, when people hear build stronger wrists, I think very few people it particularly resonates with because they go, it doesn't sound, I've never thought I need stronger wrists, but, or maybe some people are like, okay, well, my wrists are weak because I hurt them, or when I play tennis, my wrist hurts, or when I try and do handstands, I get wrist pain. But the wrists are very important. I actually think the wrists are the most important part of the lower arm because that little part between the top of the forearm and the hand is the connection between the arm and the hand. And if that connection is weak, your ability to express strength from the rest of your body, including your forearm, into your hand is diminished. And it doesn't matter what you're doing, whether you're grappling, or that's massive in grappling, massively important in grappling, especially in no-gi. But if you're lifting weights, or if you just want to be able to feel strong, you know, if you give a really, really strong strength training athlete and you give them very weak wrists, they're not going to be able to feel strong 90% of the time, right? Because unless they're putting their shoulder up against the car and pushing it most of the time, the strength is being expressed through the hands. Whereas if you give someone who's half the strength, but they're never going to be limited by their wrists, they feel a hell of a lot stronger. So the wrists are very, very important. And the program I created was to help people. And of course, you're training your wrist, you're training the muscles of the forearm, you're training the bicep, you're training the hand, you're training everything else. But the emphasis is on the wrist. And the interesting thing about the Iron Wrist program is I wrote it out and then I tinkered with it for about 3 or 4 weeks. And whilst I was tinkering with it, working out, is this too much volume? Is this too many? What should the reps of this be? What should the sets would be? And I would go into my home gym and I would mess around with it. And I say mess around, I'm not doing any of the full workouts. I'd only do them a couple of times. But sometimes I would just go out and I would just do one exercise and feel it. And after a couple of weeks of just messing around with this, not taking it very seriously, and we're talking a decade and a half into strength training and 10 years into grip training, and or longer than that into grip training, I start to feel a difference on the mats. And that shocked me. I remember it was not long ago, it was probably 3 weeks ago. I was rolling with a guy that I'm used to training with a lot. And he's a tough guy to submit. And I'm catching him in these submissions, Americanas, these, chokes. And I'm thinking, this is strange. And I'm looking at my hands like, what the hell is going on here? And even from just a little bit more emphasis, I already put a massive emphasis onto wrist training. Massive. It's the main thing that I train my grip, the main thing that I train it around. But even just focusing on it just a little bit more within a matter of weeks, I felt would never have told someone that you'd feel a difference on the mat within a couple of weeks. So I laughed at myself. I actually laughed out loud whilst finishing the round. That even being the biggest proponent of grip training for grappling on the planet, undoubtedly, I literally wrote a book called The Grappler's Guide to Grip Training. I'm the biggest proponent of grip training for grapplers. I think I've been underselling the importance of it. that is, and a lot of that is down to strengthening the wrist. I think it's massive.
Interesting.
That's a long. That's a
yeah,
long
no, I love it. It's I've got a few things I want to go off of from that.
Yeah.
I have this theory, like the bottleneck theory, right? So the idea is in any system, there's some bottleneck. There's going to be some hinge point that slows down the whole system. And it sounds like for you, what you found is that even though you're focused on grip, the wrist was something of a bottleneck in your overall strength and performance. So you focus on that. And a small difference in wrist strength leads to a big difference in overall performance, because that was one of the main factors that may have been holding you back.
Yeah, I think that's the case. I'm really interested to see the response of the people who do the program. And I mean, a lot of the people who did the Popeye program, the Popeye project, which was not, I could never put something out that was purely hypertrophy, but it was hypertrophy and strength. But they felt a massive difference when they were rolling. Everyone who did grappling and did the program were like, I feel completely different on the mats. I think that the Iron Wrist program is going to be, massively more beneficial for grapplers than the Popeye project was.
Interesting.
And that's still not a grappling specific program. Neither of these programs are grappling specific. I am planning to create some grappling specific grip training programs, just one for gi and one for no gi, that just has a slightly more emphasis on the slight differences in the two different types of grip requirements. But yeah, it makes a difference on the mat. You start doing direct grip training, it makes a difference.
One of my buddies, I was talking to him last week. He's had wrist issues for a number of years now. It's something that is a recurring thing. And I'm a trainer. He's asked me, I've given him tips, but I sent him to your page at one point. But yeah, he sent me an X-ray or an MRI, and he had a huge cyst in his wrist, so it's pretty degraded. What would you suggest to someone like that? Like, does your program kind of that? In my mind, for any training, there's the recovery and then the performance
Mm.
ends of the spectrum, right? So would your program, is it more just focused on the performance side of the recovery, getting from 0 to N, or does it help you get from negative back to 0 as well?
Look, I'm not a doctor. I can't tell you. I can never tell you do this or this, and it's going to fix something. I make suggestions on certain things that might help people in some predicaments. Um, a lot of people who suffer from wrist pain is caused by tension, especially if the wrist pain's at the back of the wrist. It's caused by tension in the forearm, in the extensors, and deep tissue work on that, in my experience, can be really beneficial. Even on the side of the wrist. Generally, not if it's on the front of the wrist, but back and sides can be affected by tension up, further up the arm. I mean, if he has a cyst, we're talking about something completely different. There might not be anything that he can do. However, very rarely does making an area or a surrounding area stronger make a joint or part of the body more painful or weaker. So generally, it's going to be beneficial. Now, in terms of do my programs as like ignoring his specific case because it's very specific and I really can't tell you. But in general, my programs will help people who have lower arm issues. And that's not just me saying that, that's people telling me I did the Popeye project, I have elbow tendonitis, and now I don't. And this is like an interesting topic because people, when they watch my videos, especially I put a montage of grip training out there and people are like, your elbows must be fucked. And what I try to explain to people is my elbows aren't fucked in spite of my grip training. They are not fucked because of my grip training. And it's hard for a lot of people to comprehend. But the reasoning is very simple. I make sure that I train all of my forearm, basically. Okay, so there's many muscles around the forearm, and I make sure that I'm training everything. I'm training all of the different ranges of motion, and there's a lot. You know, the hand and the wrist and the fingers it's like an incredible multi-tool. It can create different shapes. It can do different things, and I train all of them. And all of my programs make sure I train all of them. You know, everything that I put out, the Popeye project, the Iron Wrist, I make sure that I'm training everything because that holistic approach, that all 360 approach to grip training is the core tenet of my grip training ideas, of my grip training philosophy. You train it all. And for that reason, even though it seems that if you had elbow issues and you start doing a program based around grip training, you're going to have more elbow issues. A lot of people have found that their elbow issues have resolved themselves in a matter of weeks. And I have a free resource out there for elbow tendonitis sufferers that I created. But a lot, even when I posted that, a lot of people were like, I did the Popeye project and my elbows cleared up. So yeah, it's very possible that doing one of those programs, and the answer is, if you are suffering at all, just go really light on it. But doing even just a little bit is going to be better than doing nothing. One of the things that I'm working on at the moment, it's definitely the most interesting, maybe the most interesting project that I'll ever work on because it's very out there, and it may not even work. But it is I haven't settled on the name yet, so bear with me. But a grip calisthenics program, essentially. The question that I ask myself is, can I make someone's grip stronger without any equipment? And when I say any equipment, I mean no floor, no wall, no bar, no dumbbell, nothing. Just training using their own hands. So I've been playing around with this. I need to actually in the next week or so find some people that I can test this on, because I'm genuinely this is something irrespective of like my desire to sort of advertise this or make money or notoriety out of this. Like, I am intrigued. Is this possible? I want to find someone who doesn't, various people, someone who's never trained their grip, someone who's trained their, or doesn't work out at all, someone who's worked out but doesn't train their grip, and even someone who trains their grip. I want to get them to the cave, to my home gym. I want to test their grip, like various, because grip's very broad. I want to test their on a grip dynamometer, test their radial deviation and on a deviation strength through some various tests that I already have. and then give them a 8-week program, which is just these various, essentially, they're like weird hand positions, um, and see whether they get stronger.
I think there's definitely something there. I actually had a phase where I was doing memory training. Uh, it's which is like one of my buddies is on the United States memory team. Super niche
Wow.
thing, but and he was training doctors and sommeliers, like the wine experts who have to
Mm.
memorize everything. People like that. I'm not so refined. So he taught me the training, and then I tried to get some clients. I was going after fighters, and the way that it kind of had some success was with injured fighters, people who couldn't
Mm.
get in the gym. I got them on board since they couldn't be training anyways. But the whole idea was with the memory training, you couldn't take shortcuts. It's a visualization exercise, and you have to fully like see it in your mind's eye if you're gonna lock in the memory. But there's research on visualization. They had one study on piano where there was one group that played a piano, another group that visualized playing the piano for the
Mm.
same amount of time, and then a third group that didn't play the piano. And then they had another same program but for strength. So one group that did a specific strength protocol, another group that for the same amount of time, same amount of reps, same exercises, visualized the strength training, then a third
Mm.
control group that didn't do anything. And in both of those experiments, it was about 80% of either the skill acquisition or the strength acquisition. I think it was I forget how long the study was, but it was several weeks. So my theory is that if you're using powerful enough visualization techniques, you can trigger your nervous system to activate and trigger a hypertrophy response or a
Mm.
strength improvement response. Um, and so that's without doing anything. So I think
Yeah.
if you're able to get people to feel and visualize the wrist mechanics, then
Mm.
in theory that should as long as like the visualization is vivid enough,
Mm-hmm.
based on those theories, I think that would work.
Yeah.
um
No, I'm aware of those studies that people
yeah,
basically, simply put, if you visualize strength training, you will get stronger,
yeah,
which is kind of crazy. But yeah, that is the power of the nervous system.
yeah. It's so I don't if you come up with a system, that's definitely something
I'm
I'd
working on it. I'm working on it. Yeah. I
it's
mean,
pretty cool.
the idea is that, I guess, the thing with the visualization stuff is that it's difficult
Right.
because you need a buy-in, and a lot of people, if they feel something physically difficult, they conflate that with a physical change, whereas just imagining things, I believe that they used a guided visualization for those studies.
Hmm.
So you'd have I imagine it, I don't know this for sure, I should probably look into it more, but I imagine it was like, imagine that you're lying under and you put your hands on the bar and you bring it down to your chest and you're pushing, a guided visualization is. But yeah, if that's not already a thing, maybe that's there's a big market there. Get stronger whilst you sleep. Just a
Yeah.
visualization tape on next to the beds. Yeah, I mean, if I had unlimited money and time to do it, then I would just be running crazy experiments like this.
Yeah.
One of the ones that I wanted to do, if anyone listening wants to fund the study, is there was a study showing that people who handled guns had an increase in testosterone. You seen that?
No.
Yeah, handling guns had an increase in testosterone. So for a while, I had like a little air pistol in my, because we don't have guns in the UK. I had a little toy gun in the gym that I would just play around with in between sets. But it made me think about this: the idea of handling weapons, increasing testosterone, and that being a good thing, and whether that would be, how broad a spectrum of weapons would that be, and for example, would training with a club increase testosterone more than training with a barbell? And with training with a club that's shaped like a sword, have more increase in testosterone than training with a club, and various things like that. Because that's something that I have some swords and crazy weapon looking equipment that I train with. But I'd be fascinating whether there's a physiological hormonal response with that sort of stuff. Yeah, the body's fascinating.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, I like nunchucks. That's my
There you
thing.
go.
But
There you go.
I at least feel cooler since I started playing with them.
Oh hell yeah.
Um, all right. Towards the end of these episodes, I like to get into the future. You mentioned that you're starting a community.
Yeah.
I just wanted to circle back to that. So, uh, I guess short term, what is your vision for this community? You mentioned a little bit before, but then long term, like how does that kind of fit into the overarching goals, the
Mm.
mission that you're on, the race that you're running?
Yeah. So this community thing's something that I've wanted to do for a long time, and finally coming together. Um, Simply put, for me, I am a community-based individual. I'm an extroverted person. I like being around people, and I was part of a community. I was the head, in a sense, of a community for many years whilst I was teaching. And ever since I left that teaching position in late 2019, I have felt somewhat communityless. And for some people, that's okay. I'm still part of a community. I have friends. I'm not lonely. But in terms of like leading a group of people and helping a group of people become better versions of themselves, I don't have that anymore. I have that on. You could say that like my Instagram is a community of sorts. So that's sort of where that outlet has been for me. But there's huge limitations to what you can do through Instagram. Um, so for me, I'm excited to basically. I've been trying to open a jiu-jitsu gym for the last 4 years, just not found the. It's not easy to find commercial space near where I live, um, to the point that I've almost given up on it. And for me, the big drive there was always to try and build the community again. So I've sort of taken the initiative of not having to find somewhere physical. So not only do I not have to go through that effort of finding somewhere and failing, but also that community is now open to the entire world instead of people who are just based in North London. So for me, that's exciting. I wanna be able to help people more than I'm able to do just through Instagram. And then just like with anything else, see where that goes. Help people with their training, be able to give them feedback and be able to give. I am lucky that even though I'm not the head of a gym or anything, I'm still surrounded by lots of cool people. A lot of people don't have, and I have a lot of people who come and train with me. I have friends who come and train with me in my home gym, but a lot of people don't have that. A lot of people train alone in a home gym, or they train alone in a commercial gym, and they train a different style of training that no one else really gets. And I want to create an online space for people like that, where they can discuss their training, get tips, get ideas, share their progress, and just start to basically start to create a community. I think community is very important, and the idea is that I can create one that is a nice and beneficial and positive place to be.
I love it. Yeah, I think it's a core human need, the community. So
Yeah,
it's
100%. Yeah.
yeah. Um, awesome. Well, I'll tell you what. I'm interested in what you're talking about with the weapons training. It's my mind's still spinning on that a little bit. I've got this podcast that's it's about all I've got right now, but I'll try to find people who might know a little bit more on that. If you
I
come
need to I need
across
to get some
anyone,
like some testosterone testing swabs. I think they could do it with saliva. Yeah.
I thought it was just blood.
No, I think they
That's
can do it with
cool.
saliva. Yeah, like immediate. I think that's how
Interesting.
they test them for if I might be wrong, but I think they can.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
I'll try to find some weapons experts and maybe
There
I
we
can pick
go.
their brain about
Have a
it.
play with the nunchucks and see whether it goes up.
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, Daniel, I appreciate you coming
A
on.
pleasure.
This was a treat for me, and yeah, I learned a lot here.
Absolutely. It's a pleasure to meet you, and thank you very much for having me on.